Hey then fam, so a little rumour has been spreading about today on that there internet, and it looks like a beloved game series might be biting the dust, and yours truly is rather bummed about that. The series in question, Watch Dogs. Now, so Watch Dogs doesn't have everybody as a fan, but they certainly have Zenbloke. And I'm willing to bet there's a good portion of you out there in the Zen fam, and those of you who have stumbled across this video, please subscribe and stick around, that do indeed really like the Watch Dogs games. Now, we'll all admit that the first game, although when it was originally showed at E3 was, and we all went, oh my god, I want to play that. Well, those of us who were old enough at the time. Because it was a while ago. We were talking PS3 here, so a bit ago. And we all looked at it and went, that's amazing, I want to play that, I must own that game, so on and so forth. Then the game came out, and it came out cross-generational on PS3 and PS4. And people went, it doesn't look the way it looks in the trailer, which, to be fair, back in those days, happened more often than we like to remember. So, not a surprise, really, when you get back to looking back at it with a 2020 vision of hindsight. However, it was still a sting in the tail. But the game was good. It had interesting mission structures, it had a compelling storyline, it had nice new mechanics, the story setting, the city it was in, looked, for the time, wonderful. I mean, it really did. It was a living embodiment. Now, admittedly, it was a sized down Chicago, because it was, they took a little bit of artistic license, but they kind of crunched it down to its core elements. Because if they tried to make the actual Chicago, it would have been way too big for that fidelity at that time. So the game was good. The only real sticking point when you get right down to it with the first Watch Dogs games was the protagonist. Aiden Pierce, not really a likeable guy, and not unlikable in a way that you can sort of get behind because he's unlikable, but he has a cause and all the rest of it. The problem we basically had with Aiden Pierce was, I'm going to kill the people that messed up my life, but I'm going to kill their friends and their families because they messed up my friends and family. So, admit, you're going to do unto others as you had done unto you. Great life decision, Aiden. Not. So he was a flawed character and a flawed lead for the game, but given how he was driven and the darkness of his being, it did fit the tone and it did fit the story. So thusly the game, was actually really good, and I personally played the hell out of it. I loved it. It was a really good game. Is it a perfect game? No, but it is good and it does play well, and the mechanics were really, really solid. So it was a win-win. And then a few years later, on PlayStation 4, and, obviously Xbox One, Watch Dogs 2 came along, and it promised a lot more, and what's more, the more that it promised, it delivered. Banging soundtrack, gorgeously realised San Francisco, that was pretty much all of San Francisco. It was a little bit scaled down, apparently, from what I'm told from people who live in San Francisco. That was a wee bit scaled in, but it was San Francisco to all intents and purposes. They changed a couple of things here and there for artistic reasons, like what was Google wasn't Google, it was Bloom, but things like that. But they did a lot to actually sort of mirror San Francisco's culture, its weather patterns, the way people are, the high amount of dogs there. And that was a game which was famous for its dog petting mechanics, because how much would we love to pet a dog in video games? I mean, We've all played Ghost of Tsushima, and how much do we love to pet that fox? Yeah, you know you pet the fox. Don't come it with them, bloke. You pet that fox. Anyway, and so it was really fun, and its extensions were fun, and its gadgetry inside the game, and the way that it handled the puzzles. Now, there was a lot of stuff, obviously, transposed over from the first game into the second game, but that was nothing, because all the stuff that came over was the stuff that worked. Win, 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 win. I mean, it was just fun. Very few people I ever met disliked that game, and I played on its online mode with people who always were like, man, I'm loving this game, and believe it still has a fairly decent Metacritic rating. So Watch Dogs 2 was fun, and there was obviously the idea that maybe someday in the future there would be another Watch Dogs game, and lo and behold, we got it. And as you may remember, in the build-up to that game, I'd made the odd video here and there over the years, and when we saw the game at E3 and I did my E3 reaction, I was very hyped for it. I was like, I want this. This looks amazing. And although its ideas were extraordinarily lofty and a little bit left of field, it worked. Now, yes, you could actually see, how they put it together. It wasn't as free-flowing and open and, procedurally generated as it pretended to be, but it was just not at the level that they spoke of. And then once they speak of a level, then the public's perception of that level, and that's indeed where the friction starts. Because look, it's like with No Man's Sky. When No Man's Sky was getting ready to come out, Sean Murray was going, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And people are, oh my god, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, it's going to be amazing. And it's like, and it was, but it wasn't like that entirely. And it certainly wasn't like a lot of that immediately. It's taken years for No Man's Sky to reach its full potential. In fact, they're still, to this day, releasing patches for it. They just did like last week, put some patches out and new content for No Man's Sky. That game is properly old now, as far as video games go. So with Watch Dogs, the second Watch Dogs game, it was really fun. The lead character, Marcus, was much more likeable and much more flexible. And the side characters were fun too. I mean, the guy who was like on the spectrum and Safura and Wrench. I mean, I loved Wrench. Wrench to me, we could get on, because I'm a metalhead. He's kind of like punk metal anarchist type blokey, and he's a fruitcake, and I'm a fruitcake. I think me and Wrench would get on. And both have a love of tech and machines and stuff, although admittedly he knows how to fix them. I just know how to use them. But yeah, the characters were good, the city was amazing, the driving physics were vastly improved. Admittedly, the clothing still costs way too much, but video games. And but then Watch Dogs Legion came out, and I really liked what it did. I loved the whole idea that like you would scan people on the street to see if they'd be useful for your hacking collective, and your hacktivist group would grow and change and evolve, and you could have different operatives that provide different types of buff to your gameplay style, or grab them for your gameplay style to see how they fit for you. You could dress them all the same, or you could dress them all different, and you could do all the different mission types and the online stuff. The stuff you did just in the just in the side mode once you completed the story. Brilliant, and it all meshed together in the one world. And the London that they created, not only is it a full-size, fully realised London, but with a modern twist. Because they said a few years from now, post-Brexit, we're living in Brexit now, but this is like, obviously, I think as far as the game's concerned, about 20 years from now, maybe 10, who knows, it's hard to tell, because they never really give you dates and stuff that I remember. So yeah, slightly future London, and the one DLC I was really hoping they would do, but they never actually did do, was I wanted them to do, and I spoke of this in videos, I wanted them to do a DLC where your freedom fighters go up to Scotland, and Scotland is freed. You know, Scotland got its second referendum, won its independence, put Brexit in the bin where it belongs, and like rejoined the EU and all that stuff, and was an independent state above the fascist, you know, state of England, you know, and it's Brexit-ness. Maybe Wales is broken away as well, who knows. But anyway, Scotland would be broken away, and you'd be up there and you'd do some missions up there to then bring the fight back down south and free England, you know, from itself. And I thought that would have been brilliant, but then that would probably make me a touch too political for Ubisoft, because Ubisoft like to do games that are politically playful, but don't actually relate to anything, so then they can't have people go, oh, I believe in this and you believe that and I don't like you. Ubisoft are a bit cowardly like that, but I can understand it because they are a large multinational. So, with as wonderful as Watch Dogs Legion was, it obviously wasn't perfect, but it was still, yet again, a really good game that I thoroughly enjoyed. I played the nuts off it. I really did. I had a great time with it. And I would have played it for longer, except I ran out of stuff to do. And they never seemed to bring out much in the way of DLC for it, which was a shame, because I think there was, as I said before, a lot of scope with that game. And I did buy, you know, the big version. I went and, you know, put down the money for the PlayStation 5 version with all the extras. I got the season pass, you know, and I thought there was going to be loads of stuff for it, and the game's kind of just sat there, unfortunately. But you know what? It's definitely a game that if you see it for cheap, pick it up, because it is worth it. And obviously the rumour today is that Ubisoft is going to just let Watch Dogs slide, and I think that is an absolute crying shame, because that game is fun, that series is fun, a lot of people have gotten a lot out of it. And, you know, there are other things in Watch Dogs' catalogue that could go by the wayside. In fact, there's a lot of things that have gone by the wayside, because let's face it, I don't think we're ever going to see Dead or Alive, not Dead or Alive, Beyond Good and Evil 2. I just don't think we're seeing it. You know, when was that showing off? Yeah, that game's lost, that game is gone. It's like they've completely screwed the pooch when it comes to Ghost Recon. They've made a hell of a mess of that. It's like For Honor is wonderful mechanics, but oh my god, it's so boring! Sorry for those of you who love For Honor, but for me personally, as someone that actually has messed around with swords for 16 years of martial arts practice, I can't. I can't. But you know, you do you, boo. You love For Honor, get on with your bad self. You know, and they had their driving games and stuff, and of course Assassin's Creed is, you know, always going to be great. And apparently, you know, with Valhalla, they brought some of the Assassin's Creediness back to Assassin's Creed. It's still sitting on my hard drive. I've still yet to get at it. I really need to get on that, because it's sitting there going, play me, play me, play me. Eventually I will get round to it, and then obviously there'll be, you know, at some point after that, it'll be behind me here in the green screen. But yeah, I mean, Ubisoft, although they are a problematic company with a problematic past, I mean, we're talking about a gaming company that was set up by a bunch of farmers. It's like, how does that happen? You know, and the top guy, his son left the company and doesn't want to borrow it, and you know, with all this, you know, the allegations of like abuse and different factors and stuff, it's sort of like, it seems to be the case that he's wants out, he wants done, he wants away. And with the idea that recently the Ubisoft is very much probably up for sale, you know, and a lot of people were saying when the whole acquisition thing was kicking off that Sony would be best to buy Ubisoft, because it fits most with the Sony ethos of creativity and take a chanceness. you know, but also with recognised branding and with great single player, you know, things with some online twist that perfectly fits well within the Ubisoft model. Not to mention, Ubisoft had made some cracking PlayStation VR enabled titles. I mean, Eagle Flight. That game was sublime. I just love it. Just flying around a post-human society Paris as an eagle was just so chill. I mean, really, it was such a wonderful experience. I really loved it. And the Star Trek Online game where you were like, basically, you were piloting a Starfleet vessel, and you could be one of the crew, and you could be online with some of your mates, and you and your mates could be the bridge crew, you know, of an Enterprise, and it was like OG Enterprise, you know, it's like Kirk's ship, and then they put out a patch where it could be Picard's Enterprise, and they're like, woohoo! But I bought that game. I played it like a couple of times, but unfortunately I just couldn't get to grips with the controls. I didn't get to spend enough time with it, because I should have spent more time with it, because it was awesome. But as it is, you know, a new game, new shiny thing, I got distracted and then never came back. But it was brilliant. As so much stuff was on PSVR, and you know, PSVR has never gotten enough love. Sony should have done more for it, but hopefully, fingers crossed, PSVR 2 will be amazing. But I'm getting distracted. It's like, so, Watch Dogs, Legion, there should be another Watch Dogs game. There needs to be another Watch Dogs game, because, quite frankly, the promise, the development, the lore, the interesting characters that have sprung up through, that have come through the series game after game after game. You know, the reappearances. I mean, Wrench was good. Aiden Pierce, when he appeared in the third game, was actually compelling, and he wasn't so much of a disaster zone of a character. He actually was someone I wanted to play as, which was a wonderful change of pace. And I actually really enjoyed his add-on pack, his stories. You know, the story that you played with him in London, you know, as this gruffer, older Aiden Pierce, was actually really, really good. So, Ubisoft, I know you'll probably never see this, but just on the off chance one of your employees stumbles across this video, I would just like to say from the bottom of my dark little gamer heart, please continue to make Watch Dogs. Please continue to experiment with its formula and push the boundaries of gaming ideas, physics and storytelling forward with what I think is actually a really good concept. You know, and there's so much further that I think you can go and do with Watch Dogs as a property. Yeah, I think there's a lot of scope still in that game. I think there's still a lot of miles left in that particular car. So drive it down the road, put your foot down, and I'd really like to see in a couple of years another Watch Dogs. Now, I don't know if necessarily it'll still remain on this side of the Atlantic, or it will go back, or maybe it'll go to Australia. An Australian Watch Dogs, that could be fun, you know? Or, you know, if you have another suggestion for what Watch Dogs should do, then please, obviously, typey down below, let them bloke know. Okay, I think I've rattled on for long enough, but basically, there's a chance that Watch Dogs might go away, and I personally don't want that to happen. And I'd love to know what you think. And please, you know, if you want to respond to this video with a video of your own, and, you know, or you feel compelled to tweet at Ubisoft or send them an email or whatever, please go right ahead. You know, obviously tag this video in your email or your tweets or whatever, that Watch Dogs should be saved because it is good and it could be so much more. I've talked for about 20 minutes. I think I should shut up. Okay, guys, you know the drill by now. Hashtag support Scottish YouTubers. And of course, as always, aye, nae bother.